Hi, I'm Emma Watson and I'm a Cub leader at 3rd Doncaster East. I am a recently booted rover and one of the Stage 3 team leaders.
Hi, I'm Rahul Barmanray, Cub Scout leader at Box Hill North Cub Pack, recently booted rover and a Stage 3 team leader of the Youth Program Review. Together, Emma and I are going to tell you about Stage 3 of the Youth Program Review, what's been done so far and what's yet to come.
The Youth Program Review, by the time it's completed, will have been the largest review of Scouting in over 40 years. One of the key drivers behind the Youth Program Review has been our decreasing membership and the fact that we are struggling with our retention. We can recruit many members, but we seem to be losing almost the same number each year. Over the last 40 years, Scouting has been decreasing whilst Australia's population has been increasing. As an example, in 1970, Australia's population was 14 million and the number of Scouts was over 100,000. Now, our population is 23 million and there are just on 52,000 Scouts. When starting the review, we needed to consider the purpose of Scouting. Why are we doing Scouting in Australia? Why are we doing Scouting in the world? To start with, we looked at the World Organisation of the Scout Movement, WOSM, the statement that they developed back in the 1960s and 70s. They state that the purpose of the Scout movement is to contribute to the development of young people in achieving their full physical, intellectual, social, emotional and spiritual potentials as individuals, as responsible citizens and as members of their local, national and international communities. This is our end goal. This is why we are doing Scouting. Up until recently, Scouts Australia have had an aim which has read very similar to this statement, but as part of the recommendations from the Youth Program Review, this has now been changed to match the WOSM purpose. So, shortly you will start to see Scouts Australia's aim being changed to read as the WOSM purpose. The next statement that was examined as part of the Youth Program Review was the mission statement. Australia's mission statement has been very similar to the WOSM statement over the past few years, and it was felt that this statement should remain similar still. The mission of Scouting is to contribute to the education of young people through a value system based on the Scout Promise and Law, to help build a better world where people are self-fulfilled as individuals and play a constructive role in society. It emphasises that we are an educational movement with a strong focus on our values as reflected in the Promise and Law. And as members of Scouting, we should be empowered to play a valuable role in our communities and society.
Externally commissioned and internal research identified a few key points. Scouting is becoming a lower priority for youth as other extracurricular activities attract more members. Scouting is frequently advertised as giving youth outdoor experiences. However, the adventurous opportunities used in marketing are for various reasons frequently not being delivered at the local level. Delivery of the program is inconsistent. This will unfortunately always be the case due to the resource constraints of smaller and more isolated groups, but this is a significant reason for youth leaving the movement. Youth want to be challenged, pushed outside their comfort zone and to know the reason they are doing things. Unfortunately, multiple surveys and focus groups have shown that this is all too often not being achieved. There's a lack of continuity across sections, resulting in compartmentalisation and a silo effect, which is further compounded by the perception of old-fashioned language. There are elements of our current program that are not delivered well. Spiritual development is one such example. And finally, society is changing rapidly, with increasing technological advances, highly competitive extracurricular activity space, and time-poor parents and youth. Scouting in Australia is struggling to keep up. But do we want to keep it the way it has been, change to match society, or lead the way?
The review is now entering its 3rd year and so far has had teams made up of youth and adults. The last stage that has been completed, Stage 3, had over 20,000 hours put into it by all our volunteers. This consisted of 8 teams, roughly 61 team members who, over their 8-month journey, read 5,000 pages of literature, wrote 700 pages of reports, and surveyed nearly 7,000 members.
One of the many issues considered in Stage 3 was that of whether membership of the movement was restricted on the basis of religion or whether one believes in a God, given the line in the promise, "to do my duty to my God." Through the surveying we conducted, a resounding 96% of the membership indicated that they want Scouts Australia to be open to all individuals, regardless of their religious affiliation. A further 88% stated that membership should be open to all individuals even if they do not believe in a God. Duty to God is one of the three fundamentals of Scouting, along with duty to others and duty to self. It is closely related to spiritual development, which is one of Scouting's 6 areas of personal growth, which you may otherwise know as the spices. Our research identified that duty to God can be thought of as carrying out the responsibilities and upholding the values of one's spirituality. Spiritual development, as occurs through the youth program, allows Scouting to help youth to establish and then continually refine that spirituality. Stages 1 and 2 of the Youth Program Review found that duty to God was a difficult concept for members to understand, explain and interpret. This uncertainty was identified as having a direct negative effect on youth and adult recruitment. Similarly, spiritual development was seen as having patchy delivery in the youth program, with slightly greater than half the respondents to a national survey believing it to be adequately represented in their section's program. The next issue considered was the lack of continuity between sections. While of course all sections unite under the common banner of Scouting, nowhere is the absence of a link between section programs more evident than in this simple diagram. Scouting loses members at an alarming rate between sections, as you can see, which means that youth miss out on the further opportunities that would be available to them had they been retained in the movement. In spanning such a wide age range, Scouting has something to offer youth at every stage along a potentially 20-year journey, and we need to show this to our youth members, their parents and the community. One potential way to address this issue of lack of continuity is through the concept of one program. The Youth Program Review has to date explored and reported extensively on the concepts of one developmental leadership program through all sections, one developmental adventure skills program open to all, one promise and one law. This is the start of a transition towards a more continuous and developmental program. The Scout method and areas of personal growth, the spices, already exhibit these underlying principles of the one program concept. Reports have been published on many of these topics already via the YPR website, and we would encourage you to have a look and consider the following questions. What does adventure look like in my current program? What should adventure look like? How can I contribute to leadership skill development in the sections and youth I work with? What does the Scout method look like in my section? Do I use or facilitate development using all aspects of the method? Do youth engage with the award scheme in my section? What drives youth members to complete the Peak Award in their section? Are the ages of the youth in my section appropriate? Further information and consultation on the fundamentals, spirituality and promise and law will commence shortly to build on the work already completed.
2 of the fundamental issues addressed during Stage 3 were the concepts of one promise and one law. This would be across the entire movement. A consistent research process was followed. Early surveying identified an issue. Exploration of alternatives occurred. Membership surveys were conducted. Road testing occurred through focus groups with a range of members across the organisation. Further feedback was sought at key major events, including Australian Venture 2015. Recommendations were presented to the National Youth Program Team, the National Operations Committee, and the National Executive Committee. We've heard about duty to God, one of our key principles, but what about duty to others and duty to self? Well, the duty to others statement has been reworked slightly to read, members are active global citizens displaying loyalty, friendship, understanding and cooperation at local, national and international levels. This is achieved through responsibilities to families and communities, active participation in service to others, recognising and respecting the rights of others, and preservation of the environment. This summarises the statements that have previously been identified as duty to others. We have now heard about duty to God and duty to others, but the statement around duty to self has also been reworked slightly. It would now read, members have a responsibility to explore and develop confidence and self-respect, and seek to develop to their full potential through lifelong learning. Again, this is similar to the statements that have previously been used describing duty to self. Consultation has just begun on age ranges and sections. Make sure you check out the YPR website to read the reports and provide your feedback on how you think the age ranges should be made up. Stage 4 has just begun with a week-long camp uniting 30 members from across Australia. This has a mix of youth and adults who are looking into how the program will be made up for each of our 5 age sections. Whilst ages have not specifically been defined, you can see in the age range research that these will be very similar to what we currently have. There will soon be membership-wide consultation on the principles, promise and law, and spiritual development. This is scheduled to be launched on September 1st. Member feedback is critical to the review process, so please take every opportunity to provide the review with feedback. Have you visited the YPR website? Have you subscribed to the updates? Keep an eye out for communication regarding the YPR, engage with the consultation and let your voice be heard. Further information can be obtained by visiting ypr.scouts.com.au.